schedule that you received, with one exception. JRA is not here this afternoon, so they have been rescheduled. And the first budget hearing we'll have will be from the Airport Authority, JMAA.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Rosa Beckett. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority, and I have with me today our interim Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Jana Green, and we also have a couple of members of our board, our Vice Chair, Mr. Ricky Jones, Commissioner Jean Frazier, and our Director of Capital and Director of IT. Thank you. I'll just begin. We are looking to present to the city our proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget presentation. You should have the information in front of you, and I'll just do a brief introduction if you flip to page 2, just to give you all some insight on the airline services that we have out of Jackson Megger. We currently have 4 airlines, which are the primary airlines: American, Delta, Southwest, and United. American is actually doing 11 flights a day, 6 to Dallas, 4 to Charlotte Douglas, and 1 to Washington, D.C. Delta Airlines just recently increased their daily frequency from 7 to 8 flights a day into Atlanta. Southwest is operating 4 flights a day out of Baltimore, Maryland, Houston, Texas, Nashville daily, and weekends, Orlando, Florida. And United just increased their daily operations to Houston from 4 flights a day to 5 flights a day. And so we are in constant communication with our airlines, the existing ones that we have, and we are also in conversation with some of the new ultra low cost carriers and additional airlines that we don't have. We routinely meet with them to promote what we have going on as far as growth in Central Mississippi and our capability to sustain additional flights out of the market. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jana Green, and she'll walk through the actual financials for you all, and that will begin on page 4 of your packet. Any questions for me on just a brief overview? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. We are on page 4, and it's a fiscal year 20. Can you hear me?
Up a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We're on fiscal year 26 outlook, key drivers. If you look, this is comparing our fiscal year 25 with our fiscal year 26 budget. Our operating revenues are $26.17 million for fiscal year 26. With that, that is a year-over-year 4.3% decrease from last year. Our operating expenses are $23.84 million, which is an increase of 2.9% year-over-year. That increase is below the CPI of 3% for this year. The headcount for the fiscal year 26 will be 129, which is a 2.27 decrease from last year, with our combined landing weights being 844.6 million, which is a 2.35% decrease year over year. Total employments, we're estimating to be 1.264 million, which is a 2.21% increase from last year. We're basing our landing fees of a decrease based on, because of the cost and other economic factors, most consumers are going toward using ground instead of the airline. Any questions on this page? Everybody's good? Oh,
If the number of flights and we're hoping to get even more from low budget airlines is going up, why would the head count be going down?
the headcount at the offices, that's mostly our administration. We have some of the we have in partnerships with other mutual agreements with other surrounding, like law enforcement to help service, so we going down on some of that.
I'm gonna,
So
Okay.
I'm gonna stop you guys from questions. We're gonna go all the way through the presentation.
We're writing
Any
them
questions you have, please write them down, and we're gonna come back and address all questions at the end.
Okay,
thank you,
All presentations, okay?
Chair.
okay. All right. We're gonna move to the next page. Everybody good? Okay. For the fiscal year 26, our operating revenue is proposed to be $26,165,450, with our operating expenses being $23,844,038. And that's giving us an operating income for the fiscal year of $2,321,411. Everybody good? Okay. If you move to the next page, this shows you our bonds. Right now, our bonds, outstanding principal is $18,065,000, with our oldest bond maturing October 31. With our amount of our principal payment per year this year is going to be $2,160,000. This is a graph of our operating revenue showing you based on what we have as non-aviation being 42.5% and aviation being 41.6%. With our concessions at 14.2% and service revenue coming in at 1.3%, and our TNC coming in at 0.5%. The next page shows our proposed fiscal 26 capital funding with our sources. If you notice that the funding sources, the majority of our Federal Aviation Administration, $21,076,556, but also JAN is participating in that with $8.3 million of that coming from JAN too. The next page will show you a list of all the projects. We have a total of 42 projects in plan for next year, and with our total capital being $43,476,102. There's a breakdown by department and a breakdown of how much funds are coming from each one of the agencies. The next page is just an annual summary of all our rates, charges, and our fees. And that concludes the total presentation. Now we'll take questions. Okay.
I can understand why the operating expenses are expected to go up, both because of the way the world is, as well as some of the challenges that you've indicated here. Why are we projecting revenues to go down?
So we base our revenue projections based on employment. So each airline gives us what they project they'll do out of Jackson each year, and then we take those projections and turn them into our revenue calculations. And so most airports, given inclemental weather and some of the reduction in international travel, a lot of airports are seeing a slightly higher reduction in projected travel. Because we are only domestic, our reduction is very small, but we are projected to see a slight decrease of travel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you go through some of those on page number 4, some major main challenges? And you don't have to dwell on it, just kind of hit it, just some brief information about it.
Thank you. Some of the major challenges that you all have, it's a blessing and a curse that the airport is over 60 years old. The curse part of that is a lot of our infrastructure, a lot of the major equipment is just as old as the terminal. And so we have been going through a lot of break fix operations with our elevators, HVAC, escalators. And so we have recently gone through a total infrastructure assessment. We looked at over 900 pieces of equipment and infrastructure elements in the terminal. And so we have a catalog of the ones by condition, so we can begin to project out capital investment so we don't have to have continuous break fix consistently, and we can more strategically plan our capital repairs.
Okay, you mentioned the 60-year-old terminal. Is that going to come under any kind of historic decorations or anything?
We are, again, we are looking at, and we're hopeful that we will put ourselves in a position where we can modernize and expand the terminal. If you look at the cover of your book, that is actually a futuristic rendering of Jackson Megger. And so that's what Jackson Megger could look like. It's actually imposed on our current footprint. And so we know we have the capacity to have a new modernized terminal and keep our roadway infrastructure the same. So this is a construction drawing that's overlaid on our existing terminal. And so our ultimate goal would be able to phase a modernization of the terminal, centralizing the checkpoint and updating the concourses so we can offer more amenities and additionally offer more gates for additional flights.
Next item, the own airport water system.
The airport water system, we have taken a look at our water system. Most folks don't know that we own and operate our own water system, so we're not tied into any municipality. And so we've gone through and done an assessment of our water system. It's old ductile piping. It's 10 to 12 feet and lower down. And so as things have been breaking, we've been going in and systematically inserting more up-to-date piping and also having turn-off valves so we can better control it. We have run some estimates, and it would be upward of $23 million for us to replace and completely update our water system. And so we have taken that request to our legislators in DC, trying to get some appropriations money. We've also taken that to the FAA to see if we can get federal funding. We've also had conversations with Senator Wicker because we are the sole water source to the 172nd as well.
Airlift wing there.
Yes, and so we have a DOD component that we're providing water to as well. So right now we are monitoring our system. We are fixing segments of it, but ultimately we would like to have funding to replace and update our water system. And the estimate right now is upward of $23 million.
Thank you. I think that's enough for me. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. Is the items that we voted on in City Council yesterday reflected in your projected capital funding sources?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then my last question is on operating revenue, what is TNC?
That's your transportation networks. That's your Uber and Lyfts. So they pay us a fee every time they pick up and drop off at the airport.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
I've got a question. Can I have a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm in an airport right now in LaGuardia, so I hope the background noise isn't too bad. I took it off mute. My question is, why should the airport have its own water system? Why can't can we sell that to Flowwood or some other municipality there in that area, and let them use it to supplement their own water system? And so we wouldn't have the issues with trying to run a water system.
It is a unique situation. I visited my peers and had conversation with my peers in Meridian and in Gulfport. They are tied into municipality water systems. However, our infrastructure was in place that way. I think the airport 60 years ago was basically the only thing out there. And so they built the water system in place. That is an option if there was cooperation from other municipalities for us to potentially become a commercial customer of one of the surrounding cities. What we also have to be careful of is when when we become a commercial customer, we then pick up a utility expense that we don't currently have. And so we have to balance that. And so we're looking at all options.
Thank you. I got one follow-up question. It's my understanding, I think I've seen it on the maps, that there's a 16 section as part of the airport property. And if that's the case, how much do we pay the school system in, I guess, Rankin County or Brandon for that 16 section property, if we pay them anything?
We currently do not pay anything. Sales tax go to the state, and then the city of Jackson gets a portion of the sales tax only, and that's just, we projected that when we went over the budget with the mayor, it was slightly over 100,000, so it's not a significant contribution to the city. And so
Well,
there's no payment to any other municipality. We do participate in the West Rankin Utility Authority for sewage. And so I sit on the West Rankin Utility Authority Board as a member with the other mayors of the surrounding cities.
Good. Okay. Am I right that there's a 16 section that's part of the Jackson Airport? And you just don't pay any money for it?
I'm not sure the technicalities of what the 16
Okay.
section is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's try and keep our questions to things that deal with the budget. Thank you. And we appreciate you and your effort for marketing. Yes, sir.
I had another question, Madam Chair.
Is it
It's,
related?
yes, it's related.
Okay.
Page 9, please.
I'm sorry.
Page 9. Question about Hawkins Field. On here, it has proposed capital funds at Hawkins Field, and I see one. And then below, I see $50,000. And as my colleague has asked earlier, we just approved some grant money for airports improvement. Is that reflected on this page with Hawkins Field? Because I'm only seeing $50,000 here.
Yeah, that's JMAA money for Hawkinsville.
Okay.
There is additional monies that as we secure federal funding. So that specific money for Hawkinsville is not reflected in that. And so we'll continue to pursue federal dollars. So if we get those federal dollars, we'll move ahead with those improvements.
Okay, and my last question is this, when I was there as we started the takeover move, okay, and fighting against that. Is everybody on board there, especially with the commission? And I guess let me just say this: we expect everyone to be on board with the plans of the city of Jackson. Okay.
So as you all are aware, the takeover litigation is still underway. We are actively engaged in that, and we are active in conversations with the city's legal as well.
Good. Thank you.
I have a question. What we voted on, that was money that we anticipate getting, not grants that we already have, right?
That is money for certain we will get.
Okay, for for certain. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna move to the next presenter, and that's gonna be Jackson Public Schools.
Jackson. The libraries. Thanks.
They're copying the presentations now.
Okay, then if that's the case, we'll move on to the library then. Good afternoon.
We ready?
We're ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jean Williams. I'm the new Executive Director for the Jackson Hines Library System. I am just short of 2 months into this job, so I promise this will be better next year because I'll have a little more time to work on it, but I'm really honored to be here. I'm honored that the Board of Trustees gave me this opportunity, and I'm excited to be part of the revitalization efforts in Jackson. So you should have before you our strategic plan, our audit, and a copy of this presentation. In the year that's passed since the last presentation done by Jackson Hines Library, there's been a great deal of progress made and many goals met. In fact, I would say all of those goals have been met. The strategic plan for 2025 through 2030 was recently completed. We are honing in on potential sites for a Eudora Welty Library in the future to be back in the downtown core. Our bookmobile is currently in production, and we hope to have it by December or January. Our system-wide computer upgrade is underway. We'll have over 100 new computers in our libraries by the end of this project. We're moving from Windows 7 to Windows 11. We have new branding, and you see our new logo, and we've also launched a brand new website that is much more user-friendly than our past website. We've also updated our vehicle fleet. We do move hundreds of books between our libraries every day of the week. We safely reopened the Bolton Library, which had a mold issue, and closed it for quite some time. They have been up and running. And just in the last 2 weeks, we did get the endowment established with the Community Foundation of Mississippi, with the money from the City of Jackson, and those proceeds will start to be available to us in 2027. So our new mission is an informed, inspired, and innovative community, and I know that the city understands how important this is as well. For me, as a new director, FY26 is going to focus on renewal, modernization, and strategic outreach to our communities. We hope to elevate our public services, restore trust, and expand access. And we will do that together with the City of Jackson. Most of you are aware of branch issues that we've had in the past with closures due to HVAC issues. A branch was flooded. I'm happy to say that the branches that were closed due to these minor issues are now pretty consistently open. The Willie Morris Library's HVAC has been repaired, and it seems to be holding strong. But we do have a meeting room kitchenette that hasn't been completed in that restoration from the flood. The Medgar Evers Library is consistently open, but there are some days that the temporary HVAC unit does not cool it enough to stay open all day. And once it reaches 90 degrees, we have to close the doors. And then our meeting room at Medgar Evers has no air conditioning, but we're very happy and thankful to the City of Jackson for helping us with those issues. And I know that there is a permanent solution in the works right now. Our strategic priorities for this upcoming year, one of the things we're going to work on is realigning our staffing structure to focus on public service excellence. We're hoping to implement free notary services for our communities. We're going to modernize our facilities to the level that we can as not being owners of the facilities, but we are investing in new furniture. You will see in some of the pictures that some of our furniture is broken. It's very old and not ADA accessible. So we'll be focusing on furniture. We're upgrading lighting. We're going to refurbish our signage to increase visibility of our libraries. We're doing the computers and equipment upgrades. We're working on some landscape fixes, and our Jackson Friends of the Library will continue to do art installations in our branches. We want our branches to be welcoming and safe and comfortable for our communities. We will also be refreshing our collections and injecting new books, audiobooks, and DVDs. I'm hoping to introduce new items to our collection. You might have heard of the Library of Things. Libraries are starting to check out tools and small engines and instruments and small appliances for people to test and to use, things that you may not need to have year-round, but would be good to have once in a while. These are very popular. We're also going to invest in some self-service options to help free up staff to work more closely with our patrons. We're looking at after-hours pickup of materials to increase our accessibility to our materials when we're not open, and cloud printing from personal devices, which is a need that we see every day. And we're also continuing to explore the reestablishment of the Tisdale and Wright libraries. On the next page, you'll see our budget proposal. We're asking for level funding. You can see all of our income there, and then our budgeted expenses. And I probably will work with my finance director to reposition this budget in a way that may be easier to understand as we go through it. But ultimately, we're asking for level funding. And part of this budget, I wanted to point out that from 2023, we've seen a 50% increase in the attendance at our story times and other community programs. We've also checked out year-to-date over 85,000 physical items and over 21,000 digital items to our patrons. And year-to-date, we've had over 192,000 people walk through our doors. So you can see that libraries are very busy, and they're community buildings with Jackson in the title, but they're positive, they're busy. I know your courts and police stations are busy, but people aren't happy to be at those, but they are happy to be at our libraries. On the next page, one of the things I've been costing is the potential future branch reopening costs. And it's quite eye-opening what it will cost us to get those branches back open. And I think we will need to work very closely with you all to prioritize what we need to do to best serve our communities through library services. So there may be hard decisions in the future, but I'm here for it. And I just wanted you to have a quick look at what our costs might be to get those branches back open. On the next page, the work that the City of Jackson I know is going to be doing on community revitalization, I see a lot of hope and optimism in this new administration. And I wanted to remind people that libraries catalyze neighborhood revitalization. In my last job, we built a brand new library in a part of town that was abandoned buildings and empty property that just had rusted equipment. In the year and a half it took to construct that building, a new grocery store moved into one of the abandoned buildings. Someone bought the abandoned lot and put apartments and retail on it. And by the time our library opened, what was a terrible part of town had become a vital, very exciting part of town. So I've seen it happen, and I know it can happen, that libraries can be part of the efforts to revitalize communities in Jackson. And our improved visibility and our improved services that will increase foot traffic for all the businesses around us. Proximity to libraries increase property values. Libraries provide free access to computers and the internet. And when I looked at the city of Jackson, 36.4% of households in Jackson do not have internet at all. Of the households that do have internet, 19% of those have internet speeds below broadband level. So if you have children in school who need to log in and do tutorials, if you have college students, if you have entrepreneurs who need bandwidth, you have almost 50% of the population who probably have to use the library to get that service. Strategic investments will benefit both the city and the library. Libraries are one of the few places left where someone can come in and exist without being expected to purchase something. They're a free, safe place for people and for children especially. We support early literacy, we support our school curriculum, and we provide low cost and free meeting room space for all. So in conclusion, I'd just like to thank you for your continued support and partnership. I very much look forward to working with all of you as we make these decisions on library services for Jackson in the future. And I know that together we can build a strong, connected Jackson. And if you have any questions for me, and you have my contact information there as well.
Thank you for your presentation, and we will accept questions. And thank you all for looking at reopening these branches of libraries. And we know that we need to read, and the library is an excellent source for reading material. Mr. Harper.
Yes, thank you, Director Williams. Certainly appreciate everything you do, and the commissioners or the board members that support it. We certainly appreciate them. My question is concerning the reopening cost. Funding sources. Have you identified funding sources? How, what is our chances of getting these reopened facilities economically? How are we going to do that? What's the plan for it?
So the way that libraries are set up, we can't own property.
Right.
We also are limited. We cannot do our own fundraising, but we do have Friends of the Library and foundations. We have our endowment, which will start to pay off in the future. We're very limited with the impending possible closure of the Institute of Museum and Library Services. All of the grant funding that we relied on through that entity may disappear. We currently get, based on our budget, through the Mississippi Library Commission, we receive almost $500,000 in state aid. That money will continue to come through as long as the legislature funds that. So getting these branches back open, we do have reserve funds that we're investing and we've set aside to get the branches open. But I think when we come back to talk with you in the coming years, we're going to have a very different conversation about how we do this. And we're going to be here to show you that we will be good stewards of these funds. But we're limited outside of our millage of how much funding we can bring in, because grants to libraries, there just aren't many out there, because libraries are not 501c3. Our Friends of the Libraries and our foundations are, but libraries are not.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned computers, IT. What plans do you have to upgrade that? One of the highlights of in my ward, Margaret Walker Library, is it's packed in there when it comes to folks coming there to use the computer for various reasons. And so it's a great thing to have. What do you have any plans on upgrading or making that better, or in there funding opportunities for IT?
So we've already purchased the new computers that will go into all of our libraries. We're working with the Mississippi Library Commission to deploy those. And what they've done, because they're limited staff as well, is they've started with the smaller branches to work out the bugs before deploying 24 to 26 computers in a larger branch. So Margaret Walker will be in the next month to 2 months. There will be all new computers, and we're going to add. They'll be up to, I believe, 24 computers. And if funding goes well, I think we should probably consider laptop checkouts as well to take pressure off of those workstations.
Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. Welcome to the job. My first question, and this is a very ignorant question of mine, but I don't see anything on here like there's no plumbing, there's no electrical. Is that just because you're not the land, like you don't own the building? So I guess that would fall into this. The city owns the building. So if something like that, if there's a repair needed, the city resumes those costs. Is that right?
That is correct, or the landlord. But we do have repair funds set aside, but we have to be very careful that what we fund in maintenance and repairs isn't considered a capital improvement. And that's a very fine line in cases in the older buildings where, say, it's a $500,000 HVAC system. So we do have CBRE engaged to help us with repairs. So we're changing lighting, we're fixing leaks, we're doing those minor things. But when it comes to major repairs, we are not able to fund those out of our budget.
Gotcha. How many of your buildings are city owned? Because you mentioned there's a distinction between city owned and land, like some you lease from a private developer, or not a developer, but a private real estate holder. How many are city owned?
So in the city of Jackson, Willie Morris is city owned. Our Hamer Library is part of the Golden Key community, so that is a private developer. Medgar Evers is city owned. Alexander is a rental. And then Bolden Moore is also city owned. And then in our counties, most of the buildings are owned by the county or the small municipality like Clinton. So that's pretty much how it breaks down.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we're being good landlords for when you're in city buildings. And so if we need to make sure that funds are allocated appropriately for these things.
I think it would be great if we went back to where we met monthly with the City Public Works and mapped out things. I'm very willing to come to every meeting you want me to come to. I will come do presentations and keep you up to date. You just let me know how you want our relationship to be.
Sure. I guess the reason I'm asking is because if our goal is to support the libraries, we need to be thinking about the money here as well as money in other places as well.
That is correct.
Is level funding enough for you?
This year, it will be, but when we start opening new branches, like I said, it'll be a different conversation at that point. And that's why I think we'll have to work closely on prioritizing how we reopen branches.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Foote, do you have a question?
No, sir.
I have.
I have one. Mr. Griselle, do you have a question?
Yes, last budget season, we allocated some funds to start an endowment for the library system. Where are we with that endowment?
So about 3 weeks ago, we received the check from the city, and that check has been given to the Community Foundation of Mississippi, and that endowment has been set up. And my understanding is that it will take a year before proceeds come from that endowment, but it is taken care of at this point.
Are you able to recall the amount?
1.5 million.
1.5 million. Has the library, and I know you're new, and I appreciate your time, okay? But has the Jackson Hines library system taken any steps to raise funds?
So the library system can't fundraise on its own. We have to use our friends and foundations and other 501c3s that support our libraries.
Right. I understand that. Have they assisted you all with raising funds?
Absolutely. In fact, we're working on an AV upgrade at the Medgar Evers Library, and the Jackson Friends of the Library have put $3,000 toward that. We have friends groups at different branches, and they support us in different capacities. So it really just depends on the board. We cannot force them to spend the money on what we ask for.
Right. Do you know, perchance, how much total was raised for the library system since this last budget year?
The Friends have not shared that with us, but it is in our audit. Do you know what page? We do have it in our audit. But the relationship with the Friends groups, as I said, there are some Friends groups who choose to fund what they have passion for rather than necessarily the needs of the library. So a lot of our friends will help fund children's programs, back to school backpacks and things of that nature, but they don't often fund repairs and things that would be considered an expectation of the city or the library to cover in their operational expense.
Okay. Would it be possible to make new friends?
I would really like to have friends groups at every library. It would be nice to have a foundation for the full Jackson Hines library system. So, but we would need a very motivated group of people to initiate that. Again, we're limited in what we can do.
I understand. If you could leave your contact information with clerk of council next to you, I'm going to reach out to you about something, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
And that the Friends of the Library activities is page 56 of our audit.
So the total amount is 42,117?
Well, if each Friends group has, yes, those varying amounts, and 42,000 is the total amount. But we have no, it's another complicated relationship. We have no authority to make them spend it.
We understand. As a gift, they can choose to do what they want to do with their money.
Exactly.
So
And
we're happy to
we
get the money
so
from our friends.
appreciate,
That's true.
we so appreciate
Not
what
a
they do
problem.
to help us.
We want them to continue to give and give how they see fit. I have a question for you, and you can come back and talk to us. You said in your past job, you helped to reestablish a library or establish a new library in a community in the town.
Yes.
And we would benefit the city of Jackson, I think, for you to tell us how and what was the planning and what you did and how you raised the money. That's not dealing with this budget, so I'm not gonna entertain it now, but we would like for you to come back and give us some pointers and tell us some things that we may be able to do and how we may be able to get more friends and more people involved and let the public see the need for a library. There's not a library in my ward, so maybe my ward be that ward to champion it and try and get a library established and see what we can do.
I'd be happy to share my experience.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Fidelis?
Yeah, so I know last year, Councilman Grizel just mentioned the city council did appropriate $1.5 million towards the endowment, establishment of the endowment, but also they did appropriate $1.5 million to go towards Teasdale Library. I'm not sure if you're in a position to speak to that. In addition to that, I would like to get status on the, I think, $3 million appropriation from Congress, Cindy Hyde-Smith, if you're in a position to provide any updates.
Can you speak to that?
Well, that's what we all were talking about with the establishment. You have the 8 years to do that. So now we're scoping out property.
Right. So my understanding is we have the potential for a HUD grant in that $3 million range, but we have to identify the property that we choose or that we're going to go with before we can sign that grant. And that has been a very challenging process. So we met with JRA just earlier this week and got some pretty sobering figures at what it might cost to open a new building. So, the 3.5 million and potentially the 1.5 million, when you're hearing numbers that are 12 to 18 million, it seems out of reach, even with that grant funding. But we are working on still securing that funding.
We appreciate you and any funding and anything we can do to help you get the funding or find a location. We'll be more than happy to work with you as a council and as a city because we need to improve education in the city of Jackson. Thank you. With that, we'll have Jackson Public Schools now.
Thank you all.
Yeah, you want to sit here? I'll start.
Whenever you're ready, we're ready.
Okay.
Welcome.
Good afternoon to the entire council. Thank you all for having us. I just want to make some opening statements and then Mr. Burke, our CFO, COO, will actually walk through the presentation here. We at the Jackson Public Schools are excited about continued progress in a number of areas. And some of them, I believe you'll be able to see through the budgeting process, but others will probably have to lift up. Not the least of which is investments over the last year in our facilities, major investments in our facilities that are taking a lot of stress off of the entire JPS community and our team members and of course our scholars, helping us to have less interruptions in learning that we've already experienced towards the end of this past school year, but again in the past 2 weeks. Just the amount of time that we've been in classrooms and not having to shuttle. Now, there have been some challenges with heating and cooling, with cooling, but overall, we're excited that we've had less interruptions in terms of facilities and that sort of thing. We've been able to attract more of our team members, our teachers. That has been a challenge for us over several years for various reasons, not the least of which is just competing for a smaller and smaller pool of teachers. In this area across the state and across states, we're competing with everyone for our staff. And so because we've been able to invest in staff and salaries and professional learning and all of that, we believe that that has been the real engine behind some of our ability to staff in almost all of our classrooms, which is huge for us. And being able to start the year with team members. So I just wanted to name those couple of things because as we see our work, the daily instruction of our scholars and engagement with families to get our scholars to higher levels of achievement, those are some of the ways in the budget that you can really track our efforts to hedge our bets and put ourselves in a better position to serve with excellence going forward. Mr. Burke will come and walk us through the presentation that we have, and I'm confident that there will be questions afterwards.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Good afternoon. Glad to see y'all again. I don't have you driving this thing? Okay. I'm not used to having a driver for my presentation. So this is our vision and mission, and it's a culmination of what Dr. Green was speaking to in his remarks, and how we see and position ourselves as the school system for the capital city of Jackson. This presentation will be an at-a-glance of our 2026 budget planning. I'll talk through how it supports our 5-year strategic plan, the strategic investments that will be new this year and that will be continuing from the efforts that Dr. Green referenced in his remarks. Give you a brief budget summary. We'll talk through some key takeaways, and then Dr. Green will entertain your questions. This is a brief at a glance of our school district. We have roughly 3,000, a little over 3,000 employees. Nearly half of those are certified teachers. Over half are certified personnel. Of that 1,500 or 1,600 or so, 1,300 of them are teachers, 86 counselors, certified interventionists, and librarians. I want to point out that 253 of those are administrative executive directors. It shows you the small number of administrative personnel we have. And then the other largest portion are our classified staff, which we're working very hard in a market to compete, and you'll hear me talk about that as I go through the presentation. We have many specialized programs for those people who are not aware. We have career development programs. We have an early college program in collaboration with Tougaloo. We operate JROTCs through every one of our high schools. We have Montessori. We have our Henley Young facility. We have our Jackson Middle College. And then we have our alternative schools and our international baccalaureate programs, which we're all very proud of. Our annual budget is somewhere around $411 million. Scholars, this number is based off our last year's enrollment totals. We topped out at 17,621 scholars spread across our different age groups, including 573 estimated limited English learners. We right now operate 23 elementary schools, 7 middle schools, and 6 high schools. We are a vital part of the Metro Jackson community. We are the only true urban school district in the state of Mississippi. We serve our 153,000 citizens, and we are one of the top 10 employers in the city of Jackson. So goes Jackson Public Schools, so goes the city of Jackson. So we have a deep impact on the property values, and we realize the importance of our role in that. We also a major economic catalyst. We pay out to our employees nearly $12 million a month, and we spend nearly $10 million to our vendor partners. We have 5 strategic commitments in budgeting and managing the funds of the school district. Falls firmly into organizational effectiveness, where we commit to building a culture of accountability and excellence in everything we do with the dollars that are entrusted to us by our taxpayers. Why do we budget? One, because it is required by Mississippi law that we do so.
Two, but ultimately it's our priorities expressed in numbers. Much like if you are in your church and you look at the church budget, you can see where your tithes and offerings are going. You should be able to look at a school district budget or a governmental budget and see where their priorities are, whether it's in buildings, HVAC, instructional personnel. You should be able to see those things expressed in dollars and cents. So we made, Dr. Green spoke to many of the investments we made in the prior budget year, and I will show you in this next few slides how those investments have continued into this 2026 budget and how they tie to our strategic commitment. So under commitment 1, innovative teaching and learning, we sort of look at this in terms of instructional technology. We have built into our budget nearly $2.9 million to invest in new smart boards, laptop refreshes, educational software, and textbook subscriptions. Professional development, somewhere around $1.5 million in terms of new training, continuation training for our teachers in innovative instructional strategies and technology integration, as well as 3 professional development days that we are funding for our teachers over the normal teaching year. So normal teachers work 187 days. We're funding them at 192 days. And then there are 2 other days that we will work on our early release days. So ultimately, investment of 5 professional development days. Extracurricular, the board makes a commitment to fund our athletic programs over and beyond booster clubs, over and beyond what parents and scholars have to invest, somewhere around $550,000. That's readily identifiable. That doesn't speak to all of the other costs in terms of the facility operations. That's just the dollars they put into the programs for buying helmets, buying uniforms. Recruitment in our commitment to talented individuals and teams. Last year when I gave you this presentation, we talked about, and I know you saw in the news, our investment in our local supplement that increased what we paid our teachers. We're continuing that commitment. Now we're also committing to our classified workers that our starting wage is competitive to the other jobs that they could find in the market. This helps us attract and retain our top talent and hopefully bring more people, more attention to the hiring and positions in Jackson Public Schools. We're also looking to strengthen our partnerships, not only with our universities and other groups in our area, but also we're out recruiting international teachers. We're making an investment in these young people from around the world to come in, primarily from the Philippines, but other areas, to come in and teach and bring their experience into our schools, specifically in areas that are hard to fill, like the sciences and mathematics. Professional growth here in this area is represented by investments in training and mentoring our school leaders, identifying early those teachers and educational professionals who want to move up in the education profession, but also across our support teams. It's not just about academics. There's opportunities to find talented people in our custodial, transportation, and facilities. We have to invest in those people. We're in a very competitive market. Dr. Green made reference to this, our challenges around heating and cooling. We're in competition with our heating and cooling partners all across the metro area for how we pay those people. So we're trying to invest in growing our own through our CDC, Career Development Center programs, and keeping those young people in our system. Engagement in, again, also looking at how we can operate more efficiently. We're not just looking inwardly, we're asking professionals to come in, inviting them to come in and tell us how we can do things better, more efficiently, and more collaboratively across our departments and with external partners. This is one of my favorites, and this is, I'm sure Dr. Green will speak to this, JPS Joy. We want our people who work with us to find joy, and not only our scholars and our parents, but also the people who come and invest in our scholars in our community. So we offer mentorship programs, peer-to-peer mentoring, that's lead principals helping younger, less experienced principals find their footing, get their legs under them, and hopefully grow them where they stay and they find success in our school system. Athletics, this is, again, that additional investment in the arts. We just recently brought back on Bailey APAC school, so we're investing in that program, those programs there, and in that facility in a big way. One thing that you may not be aware of around our meals in our cafeteria, we actually hire chefs to come in and help curate our meals and help design meals that are more appetizing for our scholars because we realize our young people's palates are different than when maybe we were in school. And they eat far better than we probably did when we were in the school. So we want to continue to grow those opportunities and make our meals attractive for those young people. And then community engagement, this is a number that's sort of representative. It's 100, I put 100K here, but it speaks more to our acknowledgement that as we bring people into our communities, we don't always ask people to pay or fund things. We have custodians stay after we pay them because we want our parents and our community to be in our schools. So instead of charging all the time, we are opening our doors and allowing our principals to have after-hour programs that are not a cost to our community. And then organizational effectiveness is one where I live in both my role as CFO and COO. Infrastructure. Over the past few years, we've had challenges with HVAC. That's our air conditioning. It is hot in Mississippi in July and August, and we have had those challenges. Over the past few years, we have made tremendous investments, and we are continuing to make investments in improving the quality of the systems in our facilities. This speaks to our security cameras. It speaks to our security systems. We want our communities to know that our schools, we take the security of our young people and the people who work in our schools seriously, and we are addressing where we have challenges with technology. We also have acknowledged that we have Wi-Fi issues and aging wiring in our buildings. So infrastructure investments are important in some of our aging buildings. Facility operations improvements, we've committed over the past 3-4 years to every year ramping up our investment in our facilities. If we can get a handle on deferred maintenance, we can lessen overall capital improvement costs long term if we can start taking care of these buildings incrementally. And so we're trying to be responsible and responsive to our building needs in that way. And then collaboration and recruitment with third-party partners. These are reaching outside to companies that offer us opportunities around substitute teachers and finding teacher capacity, building security. We realize we can't always hire everybody into the district, and we're acknowledging that we don't need to always hire. But there are vendor partners out in our community who pay taxes, who can come in and partner with us, and we can, again, be an economic engine in our own community. Around HVAC repairs and maintenance, we realize we are in competition. We cannot hire every HVAC person that we want internally. So we're challenging ourselves to find those partnerships, bid those things out, and try to work with the local government to see if we can take part in collaboratives with city and county to put our hands together to figure out how we can work these problems. Custodial and building cleaning services, we've added consultants to help our custodians learn the latest cleaning techniques so we can improve their efficiency and their ability to manage this over 1 million square feet of buildings that we have, and also cut costs and find waste. And then recently we've entered into a partnership with a third party to help us with our transportation challenges. And that's started off very well. It's a growing relationship like anything else we're learning together. By way of a budget summary, our budget this year will be around $409 million. Local sources make up about 146 million of that, 135 million from state sources, federal sources around 92 million, and then what we make off of our 16 section leases will make up another 1.1. We did a limited tax note in 25, which we have about 35 million in that for capital projects. So that brings our total to about 410 in terms of revenue streams. Expenses, we'll spend out somewhere around 187 million in instructional programs. That is our teacher salaries, all of those, that personnel, aides, assistants, support services. That's where my office lives. That's where the superintendent's office lives. In those funds, transportation, facility operations make up about 115 million. Non-instructional services, our child nutrition programs, facility acquisitions, again, in construction, those
construction capital projects will be there. And then we have about 27 million in debt service. So it is a balanced budget presented today for across all of our funding sources. Oh, and I'm sorry that you should have a copy of this presentation and you have a one-page handout. The handout, thank you, Doc. Backseat driving me from over here. We have shown you the details of our funds, and so the fund names are, we tried to simplify them. District Maintenance Fund is our main operating fund. We are budgeting about $220 million in that main operation funds. And then you see exceptional ed, how it breaks out. We're spending about nearly 17 million on our educating our exceptional ed students. That's not only our students with disabilities, some of that is gifted scholars as well. Alternative education makes up about 2.2 million. 16th section revenues, about 1.2 is what we expect to get from that. For that effort, we only spend about $95,000 a year to manage our 16th section. So you can see the amount of return from good management of 16th section land. Athletics, about 600, a little under a million, a little under 700,000. We have some extended school year money. Child nutrition, we feed more children in the state of Mississippi than any other school district, including DeSoto County, which is our largest school district. We are 100% every child eats free. So we receive a lot of money in child nutrition. We spend a lot of money for our scholars to eat, which is why it's important for them to find value in those meals, because we recognize for a lot of our scholars that those 1 or 2 meals plus snack may be the meal that they get to carry them through the day. There's some IDEA funds. Those are our funds for for more of our special education programs in preschool. Vocational, a lot of questions were asked last year around our CDC program. We invest a lot in our vocational education programs. We just recently, if you have not had a chance to come by our CDC, we opened it back up. We made some real improvements there. We have an area that looks like a television station. I've done an interview in there. We've got a barbering cosmetology program that has been very successful. We have automotive. It's a very well-run, highly respected vocational education program. A lot of our scholars find joy in ROTC programs. We have tremendous ROTC programs at every one of our high school facilities, and we're very proud of those. Debt service, on the back of the page, you'll see our debt service. I'm not shy about telling you that we do borrow and make improvements, much like the city does. This is a breakout of the debt service. We only ask for the amount that it costs each year to make the debt service payments. And you will see in here the residual from the bond issue that they passed in 2018. We have some general obligation bonds from 2012, 15, the recently passed limited tax note, which is the newest one at the bottom, which went out in 23. And we try to make a concerted effort to keep our debt service payments level. So before we go out for new debt, we try to keep that number lower than what it was, or equal to what it was before, so we don't put any undue burden on taxpayers. And then finally, there are just some key takeaways I just want you to note that will sum up this. Again, this is a balanced budget. Revenues equal expenditures. It is aligned with our strategic commitments. And that we did note there is we did budget a slight decline in our enrollment. We hope every year that trend is reversed, but conservative budget requires us to consider that slight decline. I'd like to point out, because there's often a lot of talk about the cost of administrative costs in public schools. We are estimating our administrative costs to be around 3.61% of our overall operations budget. That 220 million. That is far below what the state allows at 4% plus 150,000. We again want to come away understand that we understand our economic impact, that we're vital to the metro area, and that this budget and all budgets and financial decisions in Jackson Public Schools reflect our commitment to accountability and excellence. So with that, I will take, with Dr. Green's assistance, or perhaps changing places with him, any questions that you might have about anything I've said.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Parkerson.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm the father of 3 JPS scholars,
Thank you.
2 of which receive exceptional education services, and so I appreciate the work that y'all do. And Dr. Green, I think your leadership has been tremendous. We've seen an increase in the many things that the district has done, so thank you for that. I think we have some issues at the middle school level, which I know firsthand myself is a very difficult, tricky point. Of course, our magnet middle schools are doing exceedingly well, but the open enrollment schools are a challenge. As it relates to the budget, you know, we've seen over the past century, schools are asked to do more and more and more and more and more. But at the heart of it, our job is reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's getting the academic core piece there. And all the research that I've seen suggests that the things that make that happen is curriculum, pedagogy, and literacy. Now I see smart boards in here. Okay, great. Those are pretty little toys to have in the classroom. That's all good stuff. But again, I think it's curriculum, pedagogy, and literacy. Does the budget reflect that? Do you have high quality instructional materials for every subject and every grade level? Is that where the money is being spent?
So you asked me several questions. Do we have high quality materials? Yes, we do, in all subjects, grade levels.
Great.
Yes, for all the core subjects. I want to be clear on that. For all of our core subjects, math, social studies, English, language arts, reading, and science. Yes. Does the budget reflect our core business? Absolutely. Our core business is people work. And so the huge piece of our expenses around teaching and learning is our people. The people who teach reading and math and social studies, but also the people who greet the scholars in the morning, the people who feed the scholars, the people who transport them, the people who keep them safe, the people who support them through any social and emotional needs. People. That's a huge, huge factor in the work that we do all day, every day. And our budget, as I mentioned, the investments we've made over time, and again this year, our budget reflects an effort to attract and retain the folks who can do that work. Also, the budget reflects the reality that we all must be continuous learners. And so just because you have a degree or you have a license or you have some experience in teaching math or reading or whatever it might be, we've all got to continue to reskill, retool, and get smarter and stronger at the work that all of us, superintendent included, as well as our custodians. Everybody is learning. It's a learning organization. And so you saw some indications of our efforts, both in professional learning that we do in-house, professional learning that we do with partners from outside, but as well time that we purchase, especially with our certified staff, our teachers and others, the time that we purchase with them for their additional learning, which is not insignificant. I believe we're at about $1 million, north of $800,000 for each additional day that we have with our teachers.
And I personally led a session at the middle school network this summer.
That's
and
right,
so
I know.
I'm with it. I think professional learning is key. You mentioned you're in the people business. Could not agree more. I think it's very, very, very difficult to attract and retain good teachers. And good teachers is what's going to make or break your school. So I'm with it. I'm with the increased salary. I'm with you. I'm with the increased professional development, both because that I think is what's needed to be effective, but also you stay at a place more when you're invested in and people train and develop you.
Right.
Given that, are the teachers happy? I mean, I know it's hard to be a teacher in 2025, and so there's some things that just make the job hard no matter what you do. But I also would ask us to think about the non-financial things that go into job satisfaction. I mean, yes, we want to pay people as much as we possibly can pay people. We want to professionally develop them. Are there non-financial things that we can do to make sure that JPS is the very best place to work?
There are. So again, you asked several questions. First, we were focused on what does the budget reflect our efforts around people. So I tried to articulate those, but I appreciate the focus on the things that where we're not handing over a check or money or what have you. There's tons of work on relationship building. It's one of our core values, and we have structures in the district that help us to understand that. You ask our people, our teachers, you ask specifically our teachers happy, but I want to remind you, our district is more than 3,000 people and only about half of them are teachers. So we need everybody to be content and feel some level of joy.
I hear that.
Happy
And I'm
is
with
fleeting.
it. My question is specifically on teachers. Just
Got you.
given, I
I'm
mean,
going
I'm
there.
not to dismiss because we need everybody in the system,
Understood.
but teachers will make a break, not just a school system, but an entire community.
Understood. That was the prelude to the KISS. The KISS being, we've got survey data that describes their level of happiness. And so if you ask me on the day that I've been asked to do another duty, I'm probably not that happy. On the other days where I'm the teacher of the week or where someone's covering my class, et cetera. So it's a hard question to answer. Are teachers happy? I know that we've got data that describes and shows continued efforts and improvements around joy on several bases, right? Do I feel appreciated? Do I feel safe? Do I feel like I get the support I need, et cetera? So all that to say, it's a tough question to answer. I would say most of our teachers would express that they feel some level of joy. Happy is a hard one to.
Sure. And
Right
there
now.
are national trends of October is hard.
Yes, sir.
There's things, but yeah, I mean, that's key about, you know, if teachers can be excited and tell their friends from other districts, hey, come over
Right.
here. We're doing big things. I heard great things about convocation, all
Right.
that. In addition to the academic work that you do, you're also, you mentioned you're one of the biggest employers of the city, which is awesome. You're also one of the biggest landlords in the city.
Yes, sir.
I heard some work here reflected about the current operational buildings, the buildings that are running. You mentioned the HVAC work you're doing, the
Yes, sir.
repairs you're doing in that area. You also have a whole bunch of buildings that you own that are not operational. In my view, some of those are going to have to be demolished. That's very costly. Are there funds allocated? I didn't, let me ask a very specific question because I appreciate you like a very specific question. What in the budget is reflected as it relates to the buildings you own that are not operational?
Yeah.
So, can I, yeah. So in that infrastructure number, it's in the, it would be in, I can't remember which slide. It's in the infrastructure number. So yes, we acknowledge there are some buildings. We currently have had approval from Archives and History to demolition 3 buildings. We currently have contracts. Come back down, come back through the commitments. 1, I think it's 4. Yeah, it's in the 4. No, yeah. Yeah, keep going. Come on. Are you going up or down? No, go down. I mean, go back through to the commitments. Yeah, keep going. Oh, 1, 2 more. And another one. There you go. So in that facilities, operations, and investment, infrastructure investments, it'll wind up in being in one of those numbers. So one, we did put this out, those 3 buildings out for demolition. We had a price. Unfortunately, Archives and History created a bottleneck, which by the time we got approval, it was a year later, so we've got to put them back out. But the cost at that point was somewhere around $1 million, $1.7 million. So I've budgeted that amount, but I don't know what that number wound up being. But they will be torn down. So those 3 that we've identified, I think it's French. French is one of them. I can't remember that. Baker. No, is it Baker? Baker. And there's one more. But the more important thing is we've stood up a robust repurposing program for all the buildings that we have shuttered over this past year. 3 of them are under contract. to be purchased and repurposed into affordable housing or something that will help the community. We have a lot of interest in our recent closure of Obama. Yes. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. So we have a lot of interest in Obama. So many of the buildings that have been shuttered over the past year through Dr. Green's leadership are getting some traction. There are some challenges around the ones that were closed prior to. They are older, Rowan. These buildings have sat there, and those are on the slate for consideration for demolition if we cannot get an interested partner. So we acknowledge and understand our role. We, as in me particularly, and my operations team, want to be the catalyst through Dr. Green and the school board's leadership of showing the city of Jackson how to manage and tear down buildings, and that we can be responsible with the buildings that we close. That's not to say we're not all doing a good job, as best we can, but we do acknowledge, specifically to your question, we know that the buildings that we own as the largest landowner in Jackson, we have to take care of those facilities. So we are investing in keeping the grass cut. We're securing those buildings where some of this reflects security companies that we've hired. When I talked about the third-party collaboration, we're hiring security companies to monitor those buildings to make sure we don't have vagrancy, additional vandalism, while we try to market them to the wider community. And then finally, ultimately decide nobody wants it, and then we demolish it. But these buildings have for decades been valuable parts of the community. So before we scrap them, we do want to give them an opportunity, I think, to find purpose in another capacity. But we do acknowledge that at some point we're going to have to say it's too long. But while we do that, we're going to do that responsibly by securing them and taking care of them. If that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's some resources allocated to that. And yeah, I think it's a terrible thing when they're demolished. That's not my goal. I mean, that's not a good thing.
Mr. Parkinson, I'm gonna slow you down. If anybody else has any questions, we're gonna let them talk for a minute, okay? We appreciate you. Anybody else have any questions?
Budget or academic?
Budget.
Either one, we're here. But
Well, it's all related.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, we can't talk about the budget because the reason we're here is talk about education. My question is this, you know, over on Bobby Rush Boulevard, we have Hughes Field. Very, very successful. Thank you. I commend you for that. Revenues, I'm assuming, is coming in for that.
Revenues for Hughes Field?
I mean, the visitors and
usage, yes, usage is up.
So it's coming in pretty good.
That Hardy Hughes complex is coming along, yes, sir.
Yes, okay. And my other question is across the street, you got CDC, the Career Development Center. And you will have some modifications within the last year over there.
Yes, sir.
Are those finished, or are you going to need additional expenses and stuff for
no,
that?
they are finished. We did a ribbon cutting, not a ribbon cutting, but an unveiling. They're back in there. The foyer is beautiful. I made mention that the barbering and cosmetology sections they look like a professional barbershop and cosmetology. There's some additional work to be done in the automotive areas. There's some additional work to be done in the space for culinary arts, but those programs but we acknowledge that. Yeah.
And my last question is this. I remember several times I've been listening to your budget hearings for the last 4 years. Several years ago, we talked, and I asked this question: with your budget being the way it is, are we looking at any school closings or anything like any anticipation? And when I asked that question, it was no. 6 months later or so, we found out that, yeah, there were going to be a bunch of cuts. My question to you today is this budget sustainable for our existing schools and our resources? We're not looking at any other,
school closures?
Yes.
So
The answer is
no, we're not. Yeah. But I want to address because I'm trying to. I don't know if I've ever said the only year that I would not have known about that would have been my very first year. So if I said that, it was because I was new.
I wanted to get the answer for right now.
Appreciate the question. And the answer is no, there is not a plan. There's not consideration for closing any additional schools.
So this budget is healthy. It's very healthy.
This budget is absolutely healthy. And because of decisions we've made previously, we're able to reinvest in buildings and making sure that those buildings are solid and can contain our scholars. But you did hear us mention that there's been a slight decline in enrollment. The declines that we're seeing in the last few years are not the steep declines that we've experienced in
the past,
previous years.
What
right?
type of decline do we have?
For this year?
Yes, sir.
This year, well, fortunately and unfortunately, scholars are still coming. They're still enrolling. But we have seen a good, I think we're a good 1,000, maybe a little less than 1,000 scholars below where we were last year.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? And I want to say this. I want you guys to get all your details about budgets while we're doing this. But I think I've learned something from this, that we not only need to have budgeting, we need to have community meetings or have a meeting for the council where we have everybody come to us and we ask questions. I think it's fine for us to answer it during the budget, but I think during the budget, we need to concentrate on the numbers and what we really need to concentrate on. And maybe before the budget hearings, we have each department come to us and tell us their vision or what they see, et cetera. Because I don't want you guys to ever think that I'm rushing you through questions or not interested in something. But I think the budget is the place where we really need to concentrate on the numbers and assume that the numbers that they bring us are numbers that they need. And before they come and we get this piece of paper the day of, we need to look at it and see what's going on and actually talk to each entity before they come. And I think we'll have a lot better budget. We'll have a lot better idea of what's going on. And even the citizens of Jackson may want to come in here and be abreast of what's going on. Convocation was super with Jackson Public Schools. They answered a lot of questions about the teachers, et cetera. You saw the hype, et cetera. I think we need to be more involved as a council in the day-to-day actions, not in terms of trying to control actions, but seeing what's going on. And that's just my perspective of it. And we're all in a learning curve, but I think there's some things that we can do different as a city that'll help us.
Councilwoman Clay, we're happy to, whenever you want us to come and talk to you through any of our programs or any of that, we're happy to.
I'm not sure if the council has some kind of work sessions or something where we can have people from the public come. So far, everything we've seen on a council has been on an agenda. But if we can get something where we get Jackson Public Schools, where we get the airport, where we get everybody, the library, et cetera, to come talk to us, I think we'll all benefit from it. Any other questions? Go ahead.
We can always invite JPS or any other entity to the planning committee. I think that'll be a good time to have a conversation if we want to get deeper into non-budgetary items.
Okay.
Just Madam Chair, and I've sat through this 4 years now, and I've seen some questions that can be answered and appreciated from a budget standpoint, but I've also seen a lot of answers, especially ones that people are asking me about, that can be really explained here and put to rest. And that is my goal, and I'm hoping that because finance is a tool, the budget is a tool, it's not the end all. While we're making sure we get the budget taken care of, we're also building a community, building space, building progress, and interacting and communicating with each other. Therefore, I believe that some degree of discussion that impact our communities is important.
I do too. And I don't want to take away from that. I'm just saying the detailed questions on what's going on in the school system, maybe we need to do it with the school system here only.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I certainly appreciate that. And it is certainly my intent to speak to the budget. When I ask about high quality instruction material, I'm not asking Dr. Green to tell me which textbook provider he's providing. I'm asking him, does your budget include high quality instructional materials? So all of my questions, I do believe, are resource allocation questions.
I don't have a problem with that. I just want us all to be on the same page.
Sure. It is not my goal to micromanage the schools. I don't believe I'm qualified to do so. And I do like to think that I am very involved in the schools. I'm regularly at volunteer events and in close communication with our board representative. But Madam Chairperson, if you'll permit me, I do have additional questions. Thank you. Given the difficulty to attract teachers, which is a problem we've well established, districts often have to acquire non-certified teachers. It's a reality of the process, but it's usually the goal to get those teachers to become certified. That often takes money. It takes providing them praxis training, sometimes even covering the costs of their testing multiple times. Does the district have the resources to allow to support non-certified teachers on their journey to become certified?
Yes, we do. We have the resources. We allocate the resources. We make trade-offs ultimately, but we invest the dollars that we have in those kinds of things. Everything you named and more. There's partnerships that we have with the William Carys and Jackson States and several others to support teacher development. We are investing. You heard about the Jackson Middle College that was mentioned earlier. There's an early college at Tougaloo. There's a middle college at Jackson State. It's specifically developed to help us identify in the 11th grade scholars with some early aptitude and interest in teaching mathematics. Mathematics is one of the toughest areas for us to find and retain math teachers. We're starting in the 11th grade with a cohort, and we're now up to cohort 3, a cohort of scholars who have some aptitude and are continuing their education with us and taking some college courses at Jackson State to develop their skills in mathematics and their teaching pedagogy. So they'll finish a bachelor's in education, mathematics education from Jackson State, and then they're required to come back and serve with us for at least 3 years. That's just one program that we have that's addressing the pipeline issue.
Excellent, thank you. Has the district considered merit-based pay as a way to incentivize teacher recruitment and retention and putting funds towards those efforts?
We have it. Well, I don't know if you'd consider it merit-based. We have a referral program for teachers who have a good friend teaching in another district or another state to attract them to join us. And if they sign on and there's a referral fee or stipend or something that is paid to that person who referred them. Actual merit, some kind of pay for merit, we have not done that with our teachers. That you may recall at one point the state did that. It's highly costly and it's problematic because there are the state tests for 3rd through really 11th, 10th, 11th in specific subjects, but then all the teachers who teach music or art or PE or whatever else, early childhood, they're not involved in that. So we've not invested in that specifically. And as I said, the state has gone away from it. So there's not that in particular. We do, again, you're talking about non-financial things, so there's some cost related. We identify teachers of the month. We identify a teacher of the year, staff members of the year, and we bring them together each year for an invitation-only gala where we highlight them, celebrate them, and there is a gift, a monetary, small, but a monetary gift for those who have those top designations. So that's our version of it.
Yeah, that can make a difference. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that enrollment is down. My understanding is the new state the state budget formula that determines your state funds. And I believe you said you get a third of your money or so from state funds is now no longer based on attendance. There's no ADA component to it. It's based on enrollment. Is that your September 1 count or?
It's the October. October.
Do you believe
Okay.
that the students that you have right now that are still in the registration process, you'll meet the October 1 count?
So your funding is based on, it's a year lag. So it's based on the year prior's numbers, but the numbers that we achieve this year will inform a year out.
Right, and you mentioned that there's still a gap. There's still, you know that there's students out there
It's still
who
trickling in.
you know are going to be JPS scholars
Yes,
who
sir.
haven't yet gone through the registration process. Does your team feel confident that you'll capture as much as possible of those students by the October 1 date so that you can get their funding next time?
I don't know that we feel that confident that we'll get all those numbers. There are people, and you may have seen in the news, there's some of our team members who are going out knocking on doors. We've got a whole team of folks who are trying to recapture scholars who were with us last year, didn't re-enroll. Doesn't mean that they are someplace else. It's just a number of people who don't enroll before the start of school. Number of people who enroll all the way up through Labor Day. It's just part of our, unfortunately, it's a part of kind of what we contend with. We do expect to get close to our projected numbers, and we try to have projections that are based on data and trends and that are realistic, not pie in the sky. But the reality is there's a number of implications and factors that help folks to decide where they will be.
Sure. I mean, because if a student comes to you on October 2nd, you're educating them, but you're not necessarily getting the funds
Correct.
for them. Yeah,
Correct.
that hurts.
You're out.
You mentioned difficulties with HVAC and just, I mean, that's just a struggle for everywhere. I mean, that's just a big struggle. Has there been, but at the same time, I know that we've adjusted the school calendar to start a little bit earlier in the hottest months. I guess just from a resource perspective, does that not add more cost of HVAC repair because you have students in the building at the hottest point of the year and not necessarily that week in October when it's a little bit cooler?
So, I mean, the reality is, while those are related, those are two separate decisions, right? There was thought and rationale for starting a week earlier. One, it's hard to be the outlier in the area when folks whose families or people live in other areas and they have connections to other schedules that impact our lives here in the city. We're contending with some of that. And some of that is about our staff members who might live in outlying places, have kids in outlying places, and they're contending with our school, our schools are in, their schools are out. What do I do with my kids? If that sort of thing. So there are those decisions that we have to make. At the end of the day, I mean, we have summer programs. So it's not just starting earlier in August. We have programs throughout the summer. And so we need buildings that work. That's just got to be our North Star. And so whether we start at the end of July or the beginning of August is hot. And we need buildings that can cool. And thankfully today, the vast majority of our buildings and classrooms cool on demand as we need them to. That was not our story.
Right, that
some
takes
years
a
ago.
lot of management, so
Yeah.
well done there. I had the opportunity to attend the Lake Hico meeting that you held, the brainstorming session, and there was a lot of community engagement from there, so thank you for doing that.
Yes, sir.
Are you at any point expecting revenue from the Lake Hico project? I mean, I know there was lots of plans for a potential walking trail. I mean, many plans, but is there any potential for Best Buy to take 100 acres or some developer to give us some money for some of that?
In all cases, whatever comes of the Lake Hico property, revenue generation has to be in the calculus. That's required of the state and of the for 16 section land. That is a requirement. This can't just be a feels good, and we believe you can do both. feel good about it and get the revenue generation. But, so that must be. I will say there's been tons of interest for all sorts of things in that property. And when we come back around to community with latest thinking and latest ideas and opportunities, we're gonna probably have a much broader conversation about what could be there. And about some of the things that we've been working on over the last few engagements with community as to how we might make those true. If there's something that occurs, if there's some opportunity that we simply can't pass up on, whether it's some big business or tax generation, jobs, whatever it might be, we've been discussing some things that we collectively would like to see in the city. And so we've got tons of property. How might we think about some of the other property as well to ensure that those ideas don't just get thrown away? Again, who knows where we end up with that property? And thankfully, I don't have to make the final decision. It'll be a collective body, but there's lots of, I think, opportunity there and some very real options that seem to be coming to the fore.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hartley, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just thank you for coming before the council.
Of course.
And making this presentation. I would invite you to get with my fellow councilman, Parkinson. Everyone has a talent, skills, interests, and I admire everyone on this council for that.
Yes, sir.
People pay him good money to fly to their city and talk to them about schools, okay? And so I would love for you to get together on the side and have some lengthy discussions.
Indeed. More lengthy discussions. Yes.
Mr. Grizel, do you have anything else to say?
No, I just want, for the people who are watching, I just want to be clear that the city council does not manage JPS's budget. While we do confirm its board members, we are more of a conduit for the district. And so I just want to be clear about that for the people watching.
Thank you for that clarification. We've heard all three presenters today, and the next time we will be back together for presenters will be on August the 28th. So thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.
Are these new?